I woke up that morning with a pain in my side that I had never felt before. It wasn't just an ache, the kind you get when it's going to rain or when you've been on your feet too long. This was sharp. It felt like someone was twisting a hot knife right into the lower right side of my stomach. I gasped, sitting up in bed, clutching my abdomen. My first thought wasn't to call a doctor. It wasn't to check my temperature. My first thought was, I don't have time for this. I looked at the clock. It was 6 a.m. I had to be up. Today was the day. It was the big 70th birthday party for my daughter-in-law's mother. Not my birthday, not my party, but somehow it had become my responsibility. I took a deep breath, trying to push the pain down, telling myself it was just indigestion. Maybe I ate something wrong last night. I swung my legs over the side of the bed and forced myself to stand. The room spun for a second, but I steadied myself against the dresser. "You're fine, Rosa," I whispered to myself. "You're just tired. Push through it. That's what we do, isn't it? We push through. We ignore the signals our bodies send us because someone else needs us. My son, Harry, and his wife, Jacqueline, needed me. They needed this party to be perfect. They needed to impress Jacqueline's family, her friends, their circle. And because they couldn't afford the lifestyle they tried so hard to project, they needed my wallet, too. I made my way to the kitchen, moving slower than usual. Every step sent a jolt through my side. I drank a glass of water, hoping it would settle things, but it only made me feel nauseous. I looked at the calendar on the fridge. Circled in big red ink was today's date, Nancy's 70th birthday bash. Nancy is Jacqueline's mother, a nice enough woman, I suppose, but she has never lifted a finger to help Harry and Jacqueline the way I have. Yet she was getting the party of the century, and I was the one paying for it. 2 weeks ago, Harry had come to me with that look on his face. "You know the one. That I'm in a bind, Mom. Look." He sat at this very kitchen table, wringing his hands, telling me how the catering company required a deposit they didn't have. He said work was slow. He said Jacqueline was stressed. He said it would mean the world to them if I could help out, just this once. Just this once turned into a check for $3,500. That was the deposit for the venue and the food. I'm a widow. My husband left me comfortable, but I am not rich. That money was meant for my house repairs. Maybe a trip I've been putting off for 10 years. But I wrote the check because that's what a good mother does. She saves the day. I shook my head, trying to clear the resentment that was bubbling up along with the pain. I had promised to bake the special cupcakes for the dessert table because the caterer charged extra for pastries. 3 dozen gourmet cupcakes. I had to start mixing the batter. By 8 a.m., the pain had moved. It was sharper now, localized low on my right side. I was leaning against the counter, sweating even though the house was cool. The mixer was whirring, loud and obnoxious, masking the sound of the doorbell. I didn't hear it until the knocking started. I wiped my hands on my apron and went to the door. It was Harry and Jacqueline with my 2 grandkids, Leo and Sophie. "Hey, Mom." Harry breezed past me, carrying a bag of decorations. He didn't look at me. He didn't see the sweat on my forehead or the way I was holding my side. "We're running so late. The balloon guy is lost, and Jacqueline still needs to get her hair done." Jacqueline followed him in, looking frantic. "Rosa, thank God you're up. The kids are starving. We didn't have time for breakfast. Can you feed them? We have to go deal with the venue setup, and then I have my appointment." I looked at them. My son, 38 years old, running around like a teenager. His wife, worried about her hair. And here I was, barely standing upright. "Harry," I said, my voice weaker than I intended, "I'm not feeling well this morning." Harry was already halfway to the kitchen, looking for his car keys he had just set down. "Mom, don't say that. We need you today. You're watching the kids until the party starts at 4 o'clock, right? That was the plan." "I know," I said, gripping the back of the sofa. "But I really have a bad pain in my stomach." Jacqueline stopped checking her makeup in the hallway mirror and glanced at me. "It's probably just nerves, Rosa, or something you ate. Take some Tums. We really can't change the schedule now. My mom is flying in at noon. We'll be back to pick everyone up at 3:30, Harry said, kissing the top of my head without actually looking at my face. "You're the best, Mom. Seriously, you're a lifesaver." And then they were gone. The door slammed shut. I was alone with a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, a burning fever starting to rise, and 3 dozen unbaked cupcakes. "Grandma, I'm hungry," Leo shouted, running toward the kitchen. I spent the next 3 hours in a haze of agony. I managed to make the kids toast and fruit, but I couldn't eat. I sat on the kitchen stool, watching them watch TV, trying to breathe through the waves of cramping. It felt like something inside me was about to burst. I knew this wasn't indigestion. I had had 2 children. I knew what real pain felt like. This was dangerous. At 11:30 a.m., I stood up to get a glass of water for Sophie. A wave of dizziness hit me, so hard the room went black for a second. I grabbed the edge of the counter, but my hand slipped. I collapsed. I hit the linoleum floor hard. The pain in my abdomen exploded. It was blinding. I curled into a ball, gasping for air, unable to scream. "Grandma?" Sophie's voice sounded far away. "Grandma, get up." I couldn't get up. I couldn't move my legs. I was shivering, freezing cold, even though I knew I was burning up. "Phone." I wheezed. "Sophie, bring Grandma her phone." My sweet granddaughter ran to the table and brought me my cell phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock the screen. I went to my favorites. I pressed Harry's name. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. "Please pick up," I prayed. "Please, Harry. I'm in trouble." The ringing stopped, but it didn't go to voicemail. A little gray text bubble appeared on my screen instantly. He had hit the decline with message button. I squinted at the screen, tears blurring my vision. The message read, "Can't talk right now. Picking up the balloons. See you at 3. He declined my call. I was lying on the floor, possibly dying, and he couldn't take 10 seconds to answer because he was picking up balloons for a party I paid for. A sob escaped my throat, not from the pain, but from the sheer heartbreak of it. I looked at that text message. It was a slap in the face. It told me exactly where I stood in the pecking order of his life. I was below the balloons. I knew I couldn't wait for him. If I waited until 3 p.m., I might not be here. "Leo, Sophie," I whispered, trying not to scare them. "Go into the living room and watch your show. Grandma needs to make a call." They ran off, oblivious. With trembling fingers, I closed Harry's text message. I didn't call Jacqueline. I didn't call my neighbors. I dialed the only 3 numbers that would listen to me right now. 911. 911, what is your emergency? "I need an ambulance," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm alone." And I think something inside me just ruptured. As I waited for the sirens, lying on my cold kitchen floor, I stared at the ceiling. The cupcakes were still on the counter, unbaked. The party was going on without me. And for the first time in my life, I realized that being the good mother might just be the thing that kills me. The ambulance ride was a blur of noise and vibration. I remember the paramedic, a young man named David, holding my hand. His grip was firm, warmer than mine. I was shivering uncontrollably now, my teeth chattering so hard I thought they might crack. David kept asking me questions to keep me awake. He asked about my allergies, my medications, and then he asked the question that made my chest hurt more than my stomach. Is there anyone meeting us at the hospital? Rosa, did you reach your son? I looked up at the metal ceiling of the ambulance. I had to tell a stranger the truth. He didn't answer. I whispered, shame burning my cheeks. He's busy with a party. Saying it out loud made it real. I was in the back of an ambulance with lights flashing and sirens wailing, and my son was picking up balloons. When we wheeled into the emergency room, it was chaotic. The bright, fluorescent lights stung my eyes. Doctors and nurses swarmed around the stretcher, transferring me onto a hospital bed. They hooked me up to monitors that beeped in a rhythm that was far too fast. My heart was racing. A doctor pressed down on my lower abdomen, and I let out a scream that embarrassed me. Ruptured appendix, the doctor said to the nurse, his voice tight. It's bad. Peritonitis has set in. We need to get her to or immediately get the consents signed. I was dying. My appendix had burst, poisoning my body, and I was lying there alone. They gave me something for the pain, which took the sharp edge off, but it made everything feel heavy and distant. I lay there for what felt like hours, though it was probably only 30 minutes, staring at the curtain that separated me from the rest of the ER. I watched the shadows of people walking by. I listened for Harry's voice. Every time the automatic doors whooshed open, I lifted my head, hoping to see him. Finally, I heard him. She's in bed for, a nurse said. The curtain was pulled back, and there he was, my son. But he didn't look like a son rushing to his mother's deathbed. He looked like a man who had been interrupted during an important business meeting. Harry was wearing his navy blue suit, the one I bought him for his last interview. He looked sharp, handsome. Beside him was Jacqueline. She was wearing a shimmering gold cocktail dress, her hair done up in an elaborate twist, her makeup flawless. They looked like they belonged in a ballroom, not a sterile, blood-stained emergency room. Mom, Harry said, stepping up to the bed. He didn't take my hand. He checked his watch. Jesus, you really scared us. The neighbor called and said they saw the ambulance. I called you. I croaked, my throat dry. You didn't answer. Harry sighed, running a hand through his hair. He looked annoyed. I told you, I was driving. The balloons were blocking the rearview mirror. It was a whole ordeal. Jacqueline stayed near the foot of the bed, her arms crossed over her chest, protecting her dress from the hospital germs. She was tapping her foot. So what is it? Indigestion? Stress? It's my appendix, I said, tears leaking from the corners of my eyes. It ruptured. They have to do surgery right now. I saw a flicker of something in Harry's eyes. Maybe guilt, maybe fear, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by calculation. He looked at Jacqueline. They shared a silent look, a communication between husband and wife that I was excluded from. Okay, Harry said, looking back at me. Surgery. That's standard, right? People get their appendix out every day. It's an emergency, Harry, I said, pleading with him to understand. It's infected. We know, Rosa. Jacqueline cut in, her voice shrill. But the doctors handle this stuff all the time. You're in the best hands. She glanced at the clock on the wall. Harry, it's 1:45. A nurse bustled in with a clipboard. Mr. Viramontes, we need you to sign some paperwork for your mother's insurance and admission while we prep her. Sure, Harry said. He took the clipboard and stepped just outside the curtain to sign it on the counter. Jacqueline followed him. The nurse left the curtain slightly open. I don't think they realized I could hear them, or maybe they just didn't care. The drugs made me groggy, but my hearing was crystal clear. Harry, Jacqueline's voice was a harsh whisper. My mother's flight lands in 40 minutes. The guests are arriving at the venue at 3 o'clock. We are the hosts. We have to be there to let the caterers in. I held my breath. I waited for my son to defend me. I waited for him to say, "Jacqueline, are you crazy? My mother is going into emergency surgery. The party can wait. Your mother can take an Uber." Instead, I heard Harry sigh. "I know, Jackie. I know." "We can't not be there." Jacqueline pressed, her voice rising slightly in panic. "It's my mother's 70th. This party cost a fortune. If we aren't there to manage the timeline, it's going to be a disaster. People are coming from out of state." "You're right," Harry said. The words hit me harder than the doctor's hands. "You're right. It's just an appendix thing," Harry continued, his voice sounding confident, rationalizing the unthinkable. "It's routine procedure. She's going to be under anesthesia for hours anyway. Even if we stay, we'd just be sitting in the waiting room, doing nothing." "Exactly," Jacqueline agreed. "We can come back later, after the cake cutting." "Let's just go back home," Harry said. "She'll be fine. We can't miss the party." My heart shattered. It didn't break, it disintegrated. The monitor beside me started beeping faster, picking up my distress. They were leaving. They were actually leaving me to go eat cake and drink champagne while surgeons cut me open. The curtain swished open again. They walked back in, smiles plastered on their faces. The fake, bright smiles you give a child when you're lying to them about a shot at the doctor's office. "Okay, Mom," Harry said, leaning over the rail. He smelled like expensive cologne and hairspray. "So, the doctor says you're going in soon. That's great news. Get it fixed up. We have to run and get things set up for the kids." Jacqueline lied smoothly. She didn't mention the party. She used my grandchildren as a shield. "But we will be back as soon as you're out, okay?" I looked at them. I looked at my son, the boy I had nursed through fevers, the boy I had paid college tuition for, the man whose mortgage I had helped pay 3 times this year. I looked at him, and I saw a stranger. "You're leaving?" I asked. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "Just for a few hours," Harry said, patting my shoulder awkwardly. "You'll be asleep anyway. You won't even know we're gone." He leaned down and gave me a quick, dry peck on the forehead. It felt like a betrayal. "We'll be back after the cake cutting, Mom," he said, slipping up. He caught himself, but didn't correct it. "You're strong. You're the strongest woman I know. You got this. Love you, Rosa. Good luck," Jacqueline called out, already walking toward the exit, her gold dress swishing around her legs. Harry turned and followed her. He didn't look back. Not once. I watched their backs as they walked out of the ER, heading toward the parking lot to their party. To my party. The party I paid for. A moment later, 2 orderlies came to unlock the wheels of my bed. "Ready for the ride up to the OR, sweetie?" one of them asked kindly. I nodded, unable to speak. Tears rolled down my temples and into my ears. "Don't worry," the orderly said, seeing my face. "Your family will be right here, waiting when you wake up. They always are." I closed my eyes as the gurney began to move. No, I thought. No, they won't. I was wheeled into the operating room alone. The cold air of the surgical suite hit my skin, but it was nothing compared to the coldness settling in my heart. As the anesthesiologist placed the mask over my face and told me to count backward from 10, I made a promise to myself. 10. They chose the party. 9. They left me. 8. I am done being the victim. When the darkness took me, I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was a woman who had finally seen the truth. And when I woke up, everything was going to be different. Waking up from surgery is a lonely experience, even under the best circumstances. It feels like swimming up from the bottom of a deep, dark lake. My eyelids felt heavy, glued shut by exhaustion and the remnants of anesthesia. My mouth was dry, like I had swallowed a handful of sand. But the first thing I noticed wasn't the thirst or the dull throb in my side where they had cut me open. It was the silence. I blinked my eyes open, the bright hospital lights assaulting my senses. I turned my head to the right, instinctively looking for the chair. You know the chair? I mean, the uncomfortable vinyl recliner in the corner of every recovery room where your person sits. When my husband, Roberto, was alive, he was always in that chair, holding a magazine. He wasn't reading, watching my chest rise and fall. When Harry had his tonsils out at 8 years old, I slept in that chair for 2 nights. When Jacqueline had her gallbladder removed 3 years ago, I sat in that chair for 6 hours holding her purse and her phone, so she wouldn't worry. I looked at the chair. It was empty. There was no jacket draped over the back, no half-drunk cup of coffee on the little tray table, just empty gray vinyl. A nurse bustled in, checking the monitors above my head. She was a kind-looking woman with graying hair tied back in a sensible bun. Her name tag read Sarah. "Welcome back, Mrs. Viramontes," she said softly, adjusting my blanket. "You did great. The surgery went perfectly. Your appendix was a mess, but the doctor got it all before it caused more damage." I tried to speak, but my voice was just a rasp. I cleared my throat. "My son." Sarah hesitated. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. She looked at the empty chair, then back at me, her eyes filled with a pity that stung worse than the incision. "There's no one in the waiting room for you right now, honey," she said gently. "I checked the log. No one has signed in since you went under." I closed my eyes, fighting back the hot tears that threatened to spill. "What time is it?" "It's just past 5:30, she said. 5:30. The party had started an hour and a half ago. They were cutting the cake soon. They had promised to be back. "We'll be back after the cake cutting," Harry had said. But if they weren't in the waiting room now, that meant they were still there. They were 45 minutes away in traffic. They weren't coming. "Can I have my phone?" I asked. Sarah reached into the plastic bag of my personal belongings on the counter and handed me my cell phone. "I'll get you some iced chips," she said, giving my hand a squeeze before leaving me alone. My phone felt heavy in my hand. I tapped the screen. The brightness made me squint. I expected to see missed calls. I expected texts saying, "Mom, are you out yet?" or "On our way." There were no texts from Harry, no texts from Jacqueline, but there were 14 notifications from Facebook. My heart started to hammer against my ribs. I saw the little blue F icon. Why was I getting notifications? I unlocked the phone and opened the app. The algorithm didn't make me search for the truth. It shoved it right in my face. The first thing I saw was a photo posted 20 minutes ago. It was a group shot. The lighting was perfect, golden hour sunshine streaming into the banquet hall I had put the deposit down for. There was Jacqueline, laughing with her head thrown back, holding a flute of champagne. There was her mother, Nancy, looking regal in a silver dress, holding a massive bouquet of roses. And there was my son, Harry. He had his arm around Nancy, beaming at the camera, his other hand clutching a beer. They looked happy. They looked carefree. They looked like people who didn't have a care in the world, let alone a mother lying in a hospital bed with stitches in her gut. I scrolled down to read the caption. Jacqueline had posted it. "Nothing matters more than families celebrating together. So grateful for this beautiful day and these beautiful people. Hashtag blessed, hashtag family first, hashtag Nancy's 70th. I stared at those words. Family first. I zoomed in on the photo. I looked at the glass of champagne in Jacqueline's hand. It was the expensive brand, the Veuve Clicquot. I remembered the conversation clearly. Jacqueline had said, "Oh, it's too expensive. Rosa will just get the house sparkling wine." And I had said, "No, it's a special occasion. I'll cover the upgrade." I paid for the drink she was using to toast her life while ignoring mine. I scrolled to the next photo. It was a picture of the dessert table. My cupcakes weren't there, obviously, since I never baked them. Instead, there was a massive tiered cake from a bakery downtown. A bakery that requires payment on delivery. I frowned. How did they pay for that? Then I remembered. Harry had my emergency credit card. I had given it to him 2 years ago for dire emergencies, only like a flat tire or a broken furnace. I opened my banking app, my fingers trembling with a mix of rage and adrenaline. I checked the pending transactions on the credit card. Today, 2:15 p.m. Bella's Bakery, $450. Today, 3 p.m. The Tipsy Bartender, open bar add-on, $800. I gasped. The air left my lungs. They hadn't just left me to die. They were using my money to upgrade the party I was missing. They used my emergency card to buy an open bar because they knew I wasn't there to stop them. I went back to the photo. I looked at Harry's smiling face. That smile used to be my whole world. I worked double shifts to put braces on those teeth. I wore old coats, so he could have new sneakers. I sat in empty rooms waiting for him to call, always making excuses for him. He's busy. He's stressed. He has his own family now. But looking at that screen, the excuses evaporated. The sadness that had been weighing on my chest for hours suddenly lifted, replaced by something much colder, something harder. They weren't busy. They were indifferent. They didn't care if I woke up or not, as long as the credit card worked. I looked at the hashtag again. #blessed. You're blessed. All right. I whispered to the empty room. You're blessed because I've been a doormat. I didn't cry. I think I had cried my last tear in the ambulance. Tears are for people who have hope that things will change. I had no hope left. I had something better. I had the truth. I sat up a little straighter, ignoring the pull of the stitches. I wasn't just a sad old woman in a hospital bed anymore. I was the financier. I was the bank. And the bank was looking at the ledger and seeing a lot of red ink. My thumb hovered over the like button on the photo. I almost pressed it, almost left a comment saying, "Glad you're having fun while I'm in recovery." But I stopped myself. No, that's what a victim does. That's what a nagging mother does. And they would just roll their eyes and say, "Oh, there goes drama Queen Rosa again." I wanted more than a comment. I wanted them to feel what I was feeling. I wanted the ground to drop out from under them the way it had dropped out from under me in my kitchen. I took a screenshot of the photo. I took a screenshot of the bank notification. I saved them both. Sarah, the nurse, came back in with a cup of ice chips. "Here you go, sweetie. Are you okay? You look intense." I took the cup from her, my hand steady for the first time all day. I crunched down on a piece of ice, the cold matching the feeling in my chest. "I'm better than okay, Sarah," I said, my voice raspy but firm. "I'm awake." I unlocked my phone again. I wasn't calling Harry. I wasn't calling Jacqueline. I went to my contacts and found the number for the catering manager at the venue. I knew he would be there, overseeing the dinner service. It was 5:45 p.m. Dinner was just being served. The balance of the bill, another $4,000, was due to be run on my card at 8 p.m. I looked at the call button. "Let's see how much you enjoy the party when the music stops," I whispered. I pressed the button. It was time to get to work. The phone felt like a weapon in my hand. It was no longer just a device for checking the weather or looking at pictures of my grandchildren. It was the control center for my life, a life I had let slip out of my hands for far too long. I didn't call the caterer first. I needed courage. I dialed Marisol. Marisol has been my best friend since we were 22. She's the kind of woman who doesn't whisper. She roars. When she answered, her voice was light, expecting a casual chat. Rosa, I was just wondering about you. I haven't seen any pictures of you at the party yet. Are you hiding in the kitchen? I'm not at the party, Mari, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. I'm in the hospital. There was a silence on the other end, heavy and immediate. What? Which hospital? What happened? My appendix ruptured this morning. I had emergency surgery. Oh my God, Rosa, I'm coming right now. Is Harry there? Let me talk to him. I want to know why he didn't call me. Harry isn't here, I said, looking at the empty chair again. The sight of it hardened my resolve. He dropped me off at the ER, waited until I went under, and then left. He went to the party, Marisol. He and Jacqueline are there right now, drinking champagne and toasting to family. I heard a sound on the other end that can only be described as a growl. He did what? Marisol shouted. I had to pull the phone away from my ear. He left his mother in surgery to go to a birthday party? That ungrateful, selfish little. Rosa, I am getting in my car. I am driving to that venue, and I am going to drag him out by his ear in front of everyone. I will make a scene they will never forget. A part of me wanted that. I wanted Marisol to storm in like a hurricane and shame them. But then I looked at the bank notification on my screen. I looked at the unauthorized charge for the open bar. Screaming fades. Embarrassment passes. I needed to do something that would last. I needed them to understand that the well had run dry. No, I said firmly. No scene, Marisol. Sit down. But Rosa, I don't want noise. I interrupted her. I want consequences. I'm done paying for people who don't care if I live or die. I need you to just listen to me. I'm going to make some calls. What are you going to do? She asked, her voice lowering, sensing the shift in me. I'm closing the bank. I said, I'll call you back when it's done. I hung up before she could argue. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but from adrenaline. It was the first time in years I felt truly in control. I searched my contacts for Gary, banquet manager. I knew Gary. I had sat in his office 3 months ago, writing the deposit check because Harry's credit score was too low to book the venue. Gary was a nice man, a professional. He would be at the event tonight, supervising the dinner service. I pressed call. Viramontes party. This is Gary speaking. He answered on the second ring. I could hear the hum of the party in the background, clinking silverware, the murmur of conversation, soft jazz music. It sounded expensive. It sounded like my money. Gary, it's Rosa Viramontes. I said, Mrs. Viramontes, we missed you during the appetizers. I hope you're on your way. The main course is just coming out. I won't be making it, Gary. I said, I'm currently in the recovery room at St. Jude's Hospital. I had emergency surgery this afternoon. Oh, I am so sorry to hear that. His voice dropped to a professional hush. Is everything all right? Your son mentioned you weren't feeling well, but he didn't say it was serious. He didn't, did he? I let that hang in the air for a second. Gary, I'm calling about the bill. You have my Visa card on file for the final balance due tonight, correct? Yes, ma'am. We usually run the final total, including any add-ons, at the end of the night. About 9 p.m. Do not run that card. I said clearly. There was a pause. The background noise seemed to fade away. I beg your pardon? I am revoking authorization for any further charges on that card effective immediately, I said. I sounded like a lawyer, not a mother. I paid the deposit. That was my gift. But I am not paying the final balance. And I am certainly not paying for the $800 open bar upgrade my son added without my permission. Mrs. Viramontes, Gary sounded nervous now. You know, the contract states the balance must be settled before the event concludes. If the card on file isn't authorized, then you will have to collect payment from the host present at the event, I said. That would be Harry. He is enjoying the party. He can pay for it. I see. Gary stammered. This is highly irregular. If he cannot pay, then you stop the service, I said ruthlessly. That is between you and him. My card is locked, Gary. If you try to run it, it will decline. I just wanted to give you a heads up, so you don't get stiffed. Okay, Gary said, his voice tight. I will speak with Harry immediately. I hung up. I imagined Gary walking onto the floor, tapping Harry on the shoulder in the middle of his meal, and handing him a bill for $4,000 that he didn't have. I wasn't done. I opened my email. Just yesterday, I had finalized the surprise gift for the evening. I had booked a week-long cruise for Jacqueline's parents, Nancy, and Bob. It was supposed to be the grand finale of the night. Harry was going to announce it during the toasts. I had paid $2,000 for it. I found the confirmation email from the travel agency. I clicked the Manage Booking link. My finger hovered over the options. There was a cancellation fee of $200, but the rest was refundable to my card. I thought about Nancy. She was a nice woman, but she was sitting there eating my food while I bled into a hospital gown. She hadn't called. She hadn't texted. I clicked Cancel Booking. A confirmation box popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel this trip? I'm sure, I said out loud. Booking canceled. Refund initiating. It was gone. The grand finale was now just empty air. Harry would stand up to make a speech and have nothing to give. I took a deep breath. My chest felt lighter. The heavy weight of obligation was lifting off my shoulders. I had one last thing to do, the most public thing. I opened the camera on my phone. I flipped it to selfie mode. The image staring back at me was shocking. My skin was pale, almost gray. There were dark circles under my eyes. My hair was matted to my forehead from sweat. The blue hospital gown was unflattering, and the 4-tube taped to my hand was clearly visible. My instinct was to fix my hair, to find better lighting, to smile, so people wouldn't worry. No, I told myself, no more filters, no more pretending everything is fine. I snapped the picture. It was ugly. It was real. I opened Facebook. I uploaded the photo. My thumb moved to the caption box. I needed the world to know, not for sympathy, but for accountability. If I stayed silent, they would spin a story. They would say I was resting or under the weather. They would hide the ugliness of what they did. I typed slowly, making sure every word landed like a punch. Surgery was a success. Alone in recovery, while my family enjoys the party I paid for. Enjoy the champagne, Harry. It's the last thing I'm buying. I read it over. It was brutal. It would humiliate them. It would cause a scandal in our family that would last for years. Good. I pressed post. The little blue progress bar zipped across the screen. Posted just now. I set the phone down on the tray table. The room was quiet, but I knew that miles away, phones were starting to buzz. I leaned my head back against the pillow and closed my eyes. For the first time all day, the pain in my stomach didn't bother me at all. I waited for the explosion. I was ready. I lay back against the pillows, the hospital room quiet except for the rhythmic hum of the air conditioner. It was 7:55 p.m. The time was etched into my mind. At the banquet hall, the waiters would be clearing the dinner plates. The lights would be dimming for the speeches. And Gary, the banquet manager, would be walking toward the head table with a black leather folio in his hand. I didn't need to be there to see it, I had lived through enough of Harry's financial messes to know exactly what panic looked like on his face. He would be smiling, maybe loosening his tie, feeling important as the host of a party he didn't pay for. Then Gary would lean in, whisper something polite but firm, and hand him the bill. At 8:02 p.m., my phone lit up. It was a text from Harry. "Mom, pick up. The card isn't working. Gary is saying it's declined. Call the bank now." I stared at the message. I didn't touch the phone. I just watched the words glow on the screen. 2 minutes later, the phone rang. It was Harry. I let it ring. The screen went dark, then lit up again immediately. He was calling back. "Please, Mom. Gary is standing right here. It's embarrassing. Just call the bank and authorize the charge. It's $4,200. $4,200. So he had added even more than I thought. Maybe extra appetizers? A tip for the bartender? It didn't matter. The Bank of Rosa was closed for business. I imagined the scene. Gary was a professional, but he had a business to run. He wasn't going to let them cut the cake or open the dance floor until the balance was settled. The music would stop. The waiters would freeze in place. At 8:15 p.m., the tone of the messages changed. It wasn't just about the money anymore. My Facebook post had started to circulate. The first notification came from my niece, Carla, who was at the party. She commented on my photo. "Tia, oh my God, are you okay? We are at the party. Harry said you were just resting at home with a migraine. Why are you in a hospital gown?" Then another comment from my neighbor, Mrs. Higgins, who was also a guest. "Rosa, honey, I am looking at your son right now. He is arguing with the waiter. We had no idea you were in surgery. This is terrible." I could visualize it perfectly. The ding of notifications would be rippling through the room like popcorn popping. One person checks their phone, gasps, and shows the person next to them. Then that person checks. Heads would turn. The whispers would start. "She's alone. They left her in the ER. Wait, didn't Harry say she paid for this?" The phone rang again. This time it was Jacqueline. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to the message. She left immediately after. Her voice was high-pitched, breathless, trying to keep her voice down so the guests wouldn't hear. "Rosa, take that post down. Right now. Do you have any idea what you are doing? My mother just saw it. People are staring at us. You are ruining everything. We didn't leave you. We came to manage the guests. Delete it." I smiled. A genuine, cold smile. She wasn't worried about my health. She wasn't asking if I was in pain. She was worried about the stares. She was worried that the carefully constructed image of their perfect family was crumbling right in front of the people she wanted to impress the most. At 8:30 p.m., Marisol called. This time, I answered. "Rosa," Marisol whispered. She wasn't shouting anymore. She sounded awestruck. "You should see this. It is absolute chaos." "Tell me," I said, closing my eyes to picture it. Gary stopped the bar service. Marisol reported, "They put a cash bar, only sign up because the tab wasn't settled." Harry is sweating through his suit. He's on the phone with 3 different credit card companies, but I think he's maxed out. He's trying to get a loan from his college roommate in the corner. "And the guests?" I asked. "Everyone is on their phones looking at your picture." Marisol said, "I'm sitting at table 5. The lady next to me just said, 'I can't believe they are eating cake while his mother is alone in recovery.' Rosa, the room has turned. It's not a celebration anymore. It's a funeral." "Good," I said. "What about Nancy?" "Jacqueline's mom?" Marisol let out a short, dark laugh. She looks like she swallowed a lemon. She saw the post. She walked up to Jacqueline and asked loudly, "Is it true Rosa is in the hospital? Did you leave her there?" Jacqueline tried to deny it, tried to say it was a misunderstanding, but the picture doesn't lie. Rosa, you look, well, you look like you've been through hell. I said, I went through hell, so they could have a party. Oh, and the best part, Marisol added. Harry just went up to the microphone. I think he was going to try to do the toasts to save the mood. He was going to announce the surprise trip. My heart gave a little jump. The trip I had canceled. What happened? He tapped the mic. Marisol said. He started saying how much he loves Nancy and how generous the family is. He reached into his pocket for the envelope with the cruise tickets. He opened it, and then he just froze. I realized he must have checked his email notifications right before standing up. The cancellation email from the travel agency would have been sitting right at the top of his inbox. He turned bright red. Marisol continued. He muttered something about a technical difficulty and sat back down. He didn't announce the trip. Jacqueline looks like she's going to murder him. He didn't announce it because there is no trip. I told her. I canceled it an hour ago. Marisol gasped. Rosa Viramontes, you are dangerous. I'm just tired, Mari. I said, I'm tired of being the wallet. The texts from Harry were coming in rapid fire now, desperate and pathetic. Mom, the travel agent says the trip is canceled. What is going on? Gary is threatening to call the police for theft of services if we don't pay the balance. Everyone is looking at us. Please, I'll pay you back. I swear. Just turn the card on. I didn't reply. I watched the messages stack up. I'll pay you back. How many times had I heard that lie? He would pay me back when he got a bonus, when the tax refund came, when he sold the old car. He never paid me back. He paid me in I love yous and quick visits, assuming that was currency enough for a mother's love. At 9 p.m., the silence from the party end was deafening. The event was supposed to go until midnight. But Marisol sent me one final text. People are leaving. They are grabbing their coats. Nancy just walked out with her sister. She didn't even say goodbye to Jacqueline. It's over, Rosa. They are clearing the tables. I set the phone down on my chest. It was done. They had abandoned me for a party. So I took the party away. The nurse, Sarah, poked her head in a few minutes later to check my vitals. She saw the phone on my chest and the strange, peaceful look on my face. Everything okay, Mrs. Viramontes? She asked. Your blood pressure is a little high. I'm fine, Sarah, I said, adjusting my blanket. Actually, I'm better than fine. I think the fever just broke. I lay there in the quiet room, alone but not lonely. For the first time in years, I wasn't wondering if my son needed me. I knew he needed me desperately, and for the first time in his life, he was going to have to learn that need is not the same thing as love. I closed my eyes and finally, truly rested. The surgery had removed my appendix, but tonight I had removed something far more toxic from my life. The silence in my hospital room didn't last long. It was broken not by a nurse or a doctor, but by the angry buzzing of my phone on the plastic tray table. It vibrated so hard it rattled against the water pitcher. I looked at the screen. It was Harry again, then Jacqueline, then Harry, then a number I didn't recognize, probably the venue manager, trying one last time to get paid. I picked up the phone, not to answer, but to look at the notifications piling up on the lock screen. It was fascinating in a sick sort of way. For 6 hours, while I was being cut open and sewn back together, my phone had been dead silent. My son hadn't checked on me once. But now that his credit card was declined and his reputation was taking a hit, he was blowing up my phone like a teenager with a crush. But these weren't love notes. They were panic-wrapped in manipulation. I opened the text thread from Jacqueline first. She had sent a paragraph that took up the whole screen. Rosa, I cannot believe you would do this to us. To me, on my mother's 70th birthday. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Gary stopped the music. People are whispering. Mom is crying in the bathroom. We were just about to leave to come see you. We were literally grabbing our coats when the manager cornered Harry. You have to delete that post right now and tell the bank it was a mistake. Fix this. I read it twice. We were just about to leave. I looked at the timestamp on the credit card alert for the open bar upgrade. 8 p.m. They weren't grabbing their coats. They were grabbing another round of drinks on my dime. Then came Harry's texts. They were shorter, more frantic. Mom, pick up. It's not what it looks like. You're overreacting. We didn't leave you. We just needed to manage the event. We love you. Please don't ruin this for us. The police are here, Mom. Gary called the cops because we can't pay. Are you happy now? Was I happy? No. I was in a hospital bed with a tube in my arm and an incision in my stomach. I wasn't happy, but I felt a grim sense of justice. I went to the settings on my phone. I didn't turn it off. I needed it in case the doctors needed to reach my emergency contact, which I realized with a pang was still Harry. I needed to change that. Instead, I tapped the moon icon. Do not disturb. The buzzing stopped. The room went quiet again. But peace is hard to keep when you've spent a lifetime being a doormat. 10 minutes later, the hospital room phone, the landline on the bedside table, rang. I hesitated. Only a few people had that number. I picked it up. Hello, Rosa? It's your cousin Brenda. Brenda, of course. Brenda, who lives 3 towns over and thinks family appearances are more important than oxygen. She must have seen the Facebook post. Or worse, someone at the party had called her to gossip. Hi, Brenda, I said, my voice tired. I'm recovering from surgery, so I can't talk long. I know, I saw your post, Brenda said. The way she said post sounded like she was saying crime. Rosa, honey, are you sure you're thinking clearly? Maybe the anesthesia is making you emotional. I'm very clear, Brenda. I said, well, it's just airing your dirty laundry online like that. Brenda clucked her tongue. It's not dignified. Rosa, you know how hard Harry and Jacqueline try. They're young. They make mistakes. But to humiliate them in front of the whole town, Nancy called me in tears. She said you ruined her birthday. Nancy's birthday? I asked, gripping the phone tighter. Brenda, my appendix burst. I was alone in the ER. Harry left me there to go eat cake. I'm sure he didn't mean to hurt you, Brenda soothed, using that voice people use on toddlers. He probably just thought you were stable. You know how men are. They don't handle medical stuff well. But Rosa, you're the mother. You're the matriarch. It's your job to keep the peace. Be the bigger person. Take the post down, pay the bill, and deal with it privately tomorrow. Don't let them be arrested over a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding, I said, and I'm done being the bigger person. I'm tired of being the bigger person. It's shrinking me. You're being petty, Brenda snapped, her nice facade dropping. You're an old woman holding a grudge against your own son. You'll regret this when they stop letting you see the grandkids. Click. I hung up on her. My hand was shaking. You're being petty. The words echoed in the quiet room. Doubt, cold and slippery, started to creep in. Was I being petty? Was I being vindictive? I thought about my grandkids, Leo and Sophie. Harry would definitely use them as a weapon. He would tell them Grandma is mean. Grandma is crazy. Grandma ruined the party. I looked at the darkened screen of my cell phone. Maybe Brenda was right. Maybe I should just pay the bill. It's just money, right? I could fix this. I could call Gary, give him the card number, and tell Harry we would talk later. That's what the good mother does. She swallows the poison, so her children don't have to taste it. My thumb hovered over the phone. I was about to turn off Do Not Disturb. I was about to cave. Then the door to my room flew open. It wasn't a nurse. It was Marisol. She looked like a storm cloud in a bright red raincoat. Her hair was frizzy from the humidity, and she was carrying a large paper bag that smelled like heaven, roasted chicken, and plantains. She took one look at my face and stopped. She dropped the bag on the visitor chair, the chair Harry should have been in, and marched over to the bed. "I know that look," she said, pointing a finger at me. "That is the I'm sorry I exist look. Stop it." Brenda called. I whispered, tears finally spilling over. "She said I'm being petty. She said I'm ruining the family." Marisol let out a noise of disgust. "Brenda is an idiot. Brenda hasn't paid a bill on time in 1994. Don't listen to Brenda." She pulled the tray table closer and started unpacking the food. Real food, not hospital jelly. "I brought you soup, and I brought you the truth. They're saying they were coming back." I told her, my voice trembling. Jacqueline texted. She said they were just about to leave when the card declined. Maybe I jumped the gun, Mari. Maybe I should have waited. Marisol stopped unpacking. She leaned over the bed, her dark eyes fierce. "Rosa, listen to me," she said firmly. "I was there. I walked into that venue right as the chaos started. Do you know what I saw?" I shook my head. I saw Harry sitting at the bar with a scotch in his hand, laughing with his college buddies. I saw Jacqueline dancing with her mother. It was 8:15. If they were just about to leave, why were his jacket and keys checked at the coat check? I saw him waiting in line to get them after the manager stopped the music. She grabbed my hand. Her skin was rough and warm. They were not coming back, Rosa, not until the party was over, not until they had squeezed every last drop of fun out of your credit card. They left you here to die alone, so they could look rich in front of their friends. They left me, I repeated, the reality settling back in, pushing the doubt away. They did, Marisol said. And now they are panicking, not because they are worried about your appendix, but because you took away their ATM card. That is not love, Rosa. That is usage. She took my phone from the tray table. "Is this on silent?" "Do not disturb," I said. "Good," Marisol said. She put the phone in her purse. "You are not talking to them tonight. You are eating this soup. You are resting. And that post stays up. What if they get arrested?" I asked, the mother in me still flinching at the thought. Marisol shrugged, opening the container of soup. "Then maybe they will learn that actions have consequences. You didn't call the police, Rosa. The venue did. That's on them." She spooned some broth and held it to my lips. "Eat. You need your strength. Tomorrow is going to be a war, and I need you to be a general, not a doormat." I took the soup. It was warm and salty and tasted like love. Real love. The kind that shows up. I looked at the empty spot on the table where my phone used to be. The panic was still there, buzzing in the back of my mind. But Marisol was right. I had spent 40 years protecting Harry from the world. I couldn't protect him from himself anymore. "Keep the post up," I said, swallowing the soup. "Damn straight," Marisol said. "Now, tell me about the nurses. Are they treating you right, or do I need to fight someone here too?" I laughed. It hurt my stitches, but it felt good. I wasn't alone. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to apologize for being the one who needed saving. The morning sun hit the hospital blinds at a sharp angle, slicing the room into stripes of light and shadow. It was 10 a.m. on the day after surgery. My abdomen felt tight, and moving was still a struggle, but my mind was clearer than it had been in years. Marisol was sitting in the corner, reading a magazine, but I knew she wasn't really reading. She was standing guard. We had spent the morning preparing. Marisol had gone down to the hospital business center to type up a document I dictated to her over breakfast. That piece of paper was now folded neatly on my bedside table, sitting under my glasses case. "They're here," Marisol said quietly, not looking up from her magazine. I heard the heavy footsteps in the hallway before I saw them. There was no hesitation, no soft tread of worried relatives trying not to disturb a patient. These were the stomping footsteps of people on a mission. The door swung open without a knock. Harry and Jacqueline walked in. They looked terrible, and for a split second, a mother's instinct kicked in. I wanted to ask if they were okay, but I stopped myself. They didn't look tired from grief or worry. They looked hungover and furious. Harry was still wearing his suit pants from the night before, but the shirt was wrinkled and unbuttoned at the collar. His eyes were bloodshot. Jacqueline wasn't wearing her gold dress, thankfully, but she had on oversized sunglasses and sweatpants, looking like she was trying to hide from the world. They didn't bring flowers. They didn't bring a card. They didn't even stop at the foot of the bed to look at me. Harry marched right up to the side of the bed, his face flushed. "Do you have any idea what you did?" he demanded. His voice was loud, bouncing off the sterile walls. "Gary called us at 7 a.m. 7 in the morning, Mom. He's threatening to file a police report for theft of services if the bill isn't paid by noon today." "Hello to you too, Harry," I said calmly. "I'm doing much better. Thank you for asking. The surgeon said the infection was severe, but I pulled through." Harry waved his hand dismissively, as if my near-death experience was just a distraction from the real issue. "Stop it. Stop with the guilt trip. We know you're fine. The doctor said you were stable yesterday. We need to talk about the money." "There is nothing to talk about," I said, adjusting the bed controls so I could sit up straighter. The motor whirred, lifting me up so I could look him in the eye. "You promised." Jacqueline piped up from the doorway, pulling her sunglasses off. Her eyes were puffy. "You told us the party was your gift. You signed the contract. You can't just pull the rug out from under us in the middle of the event. It's cruel. Cruel." I repeated the word, tasting the irony of it. "Cruel is hearing your son say, 'Let's go back to the party. She'll be fine,' while I'm lying on a gurney thinking I might never see my grandchildren again." The room went silent. Harry stiffened. He looked at Jacqueline, then back at me. "You heard that," he whispered. "I heard every word. I said, I heard you choose cake over my life. I heard you decide that my emergency wasn't worth missing a toast. So don't talk to me about what I promised. I promised to support a family that supports me. You broke that contract the moment you walked out those ER doors." Harry ran a hand over his face. "Mom, it wasn't like that. We were panicked. We weren't thinking straight." "You were thinking perfectly straight," I corrected him. "You were thinking about your reputation. You were thinking about having a good time. And you were thinking that good old Rosa would just take it like she always does." "Look, we can argue about feelings later," Harry snapped, his patience fraying. "Right now, we have a real problem. Gary wants $4,000. We don't have it. You know we don't have it. If we don't pay, they're going to sue us. Just give me the card number. Mom, please, we'll pay you back." I reached over to the bedside table. I picked up the folded piece of paper Marisol had typed. My hand wasn't shaking. "I'm not paying Gary," I said, "and I'm not paying for anything else either." I held the paper out to him. "You need to read this." Harry took it, looking confused. "What is this?" "It's a list," I said. "It's a list of everything I pay for that you seem to have forgotten about." Harry unfolded the paper. Jacqueline stepped closer to read over his shoulder. I watched their eyes skim down the page. 2019 Honda Pilot car insurance, $180 per month. Harry and Jacqueline's cell phone family plan, $240 per month. Leo and Sophie's private school tuition, $1,200 per month. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus subscriptions, $55 per month. Weekly housekeeping service for Jacqueline, $400 per month. Grandkids, swimming, and karate lessons, $300 per month. Effective immediately, I said, my voice steady and hard. All those accounts are being canceled or transferred to your name. The bank of Mom is closed. Figure it out. Harry's face turned a shade of pale I had never seen before. He looked up at me, the paper trembling in his hand. You can't do this, he stammered. Mom, this is thousands of dollars a month. We can't afford this. The tuition alone, we'd have to pull the kids out of school. Then pull them out, I said, or get a second job, or sell the new car. That's what adults do, Harry. They pay for their own lives. You're punishing the kids. Jacqueline shrieked, stepping forward. This isn't about us. It's about Leo and Sophie. How can you do that to them? You're supposed to be their grandmother. I am their grandmother, I said. I am not their father, and I am not their mother. It is your job to provide for them, not mine. I have spent my retirement savings making your lives easier, and in return, I got abandoned in a hospital. Harry crumpled the paper in his fist. His eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw a flash of real malice in him. He realized begging wasn't working, so he switched to the only weapon he had left. Fine, he spat. You want to play hardball? Let's play. If you cut us off, you cut yourself off. You don't get to see Leo and Sophie. You don't get to be grandma if you don't support the family. Marisol gasped from the corner. Harry, you little... I held up a hand to stop her. I looked at my son. I looked at the man I had raised, the man I had loved more than my own life. And I realized he wasn't bluffing. He was actually trying to ransom my grandchildren for a cell phone bill. But he forgot one thing. I wasn't just a grandmother. I was the woman who owned everything. Is that so? I asked quietly. You're going to keep the children from me? Watch me, Harry challenged, crossing his arms. No money, no access. That's the deal. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I leaned back against the pillows and let out a sigh. Okay, Harry, if that's your choice, I accept it. Harry looked surprised. He thought he had won. A smug smile started to form on his lips. I knew you'd come around. So, about the caterer. I'm not done. I interrupted him, my voice turning to ice. If you keep those children from me, I will call my lawyer, Mr. Henderson, this afternoon. You know him. He holds the deed to the house you're living in. The house I own, Harry. The one I let you live in rent-free. The smug smile vanished. I will have Mr. Henderson draft an eviction notice. I continued, speaking slowly so every word sank in. I will give you 30 days to vacate, and then I will rewrite my will. Currently, you and Jacqueline get everything. The house, the savings, the investments. But if you play this game with me, I will leave every single penny to the local cat shelter. I will leave you nothing. Not the house, not the jewelry, not even a spoon. Harry's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked at Jacqueline. She looked terrified. They were living in my house. They were driving cars I insured. They were living a life built entirely on my foundation. So, I said, folding my hands in my lap, you can keep the kids from me. That is your right as a parent. But make sure you have a place to sleep next month before you make that decision. Try me, Harry. Just try me. The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. Harry looked at the crumpled list in his hand, then at me. He saw something he hadn't seen before. He saw that I wasn't afraid of him anymore. Mom. He started, his voice cracking. The malice was gone. replaced by pure fear. Get out, I said. I pointed to the door. Go pay your catering bill. Sell your watch if you have to, but get out of my room. My blood pressure is going up, and I don't want to pay for another day in the hospital. Harry stood there for another second, looking for a way out, looking for a weakness. He found none. He turned around, grabbed Jacqueline by the arm, and walked out the door. As the door clicked shut, the tension left my body in a rush. I slumped back against the pillows, trembling slightly. Marisol stood up and walked over to the bed. She didn't say anything. She just took my hand and squeezed it. I did it, I whispered. You did, Marisol said, smiling. And I have never been more proud of you. I looked at the closed door. It hurt. God, it hurt to see my son look at me with such hate. But for the first time in years, I felt safe. I had built a wall, and they couldn't hurt me anymore. I was free. 3 months have passed since I woke up in that recovery room alone. 3 months since I looked at a Facebook photo and decided I was done being a doormat. I looked in the mirror this morning. The woman staring back at me didn't look like the pale, gray ghost from the hospital selfie. My cheeks had color. My hair was cut in a short, stylish bob that Marisol talked me into. And the most important thing, the heaviness in my chest was gone. I zipped up my suitcase. It was the big red one, the one I hadn't used since my husband passed away. It was packed with swimsuits, sundresses, and evening wear. I looked around the room. It wasn't the master bedroom of the big colonial house on Elm Street, where I had lived for 40 years. That house is sold. The for sale sign went up 2 weeks after I left the hospital. Harry didn't believe me at first. He thought I was bluffing about the eviction. But when Mr. Henderson, my lawyer, sent him the formal notice that I was liquidating the asset, reality hit him hard. Harry and Jacqueline had to move out. They couldn't afford to buy the house from me at market value, not without my help for the down payment, which I obviously didn't provide. Selling that house was the hardest and easiest thing I've ever done. It was full of memories, yes, but it was also a museum of my past life, a big, empty space where I waited for people to visit me. Now, I live in the Palms, a 55-plus community on the other side of town. It's vibrant here. I have a 2-bedroom condo that is easy to clean. I have a garden I can actually manage. And best of all, I have neighbors who check on me because they are friends, not because they want a loan. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at it. It was Harry. In the old days, I would have dropped everything to answer. I would have worried there was an emergency. Now, I finished folding my silk scarf and placed it gently in the suitcase before I picked up the phone. "Hello, Harry," I said. "Hey, Mom." His voice sounded tired. He sounds tired a lot these days. "Just calling to check in. How are you?" "I'm doing wonderful," I said honestly. "Just packing." "Right. The cruise," he said. There was a pause. I could hear the hesitation in his voice. "Listen, Mom, I was wondering if you're going to be gone for 2 weeks, maybe we could come over and check on your place, water the plants." I smiled. I knew what checking on the place meant. It meant looking in the fridge for food. It meant escaping their cramped apartment. Harry and Jacqueline are struggling. I won't lie, it's hard for a mother to watch. They had to trade in the luxury SUV for a used sedan. They moved into a 2-bedroom apartment that Jacqueline complains is claustrophobic. They had to cancel the country club membership, but they are doing it. Harry got a second job, consulting on weekends. Jacqueline actually started selling some of her designer handbags online. They are surviving. They are learning how to be adults at nearly 40 years old. "That's sweet of you to offer, Harry," I said. "But my neighbor, Susan, is already handling the plants. She has a key." "Oh," he said. He sounded deflated. "Okay, well, Have fun. The kids say hi. Tell them I love them. I said, I'll bring them a souvenir. I hung up. I do see the grandkids. I see them on Sundays for lunch. I pick them up, I take them for ice cream, and I drop them off. I don't babysit for free, so Jacqueline can get her nails done anymore. I am a grandmother, not a nanny, and strangely, Leo and Sophie seem to respect me more now. I'm not the furniture in the background anymore. I'm the grandma who travels. There was a knock at the door. It was Marisol. She was wearing a giant sun hat and dragging her own suitcase. Rosa, she shouted, the taxi is downstairs. The Bahamas are waiting for us. I laughed. I grabbed my purse and took one last look around my cozy, quiet condo. The trip I had canceled for Jacqueline's parents, the one Harry was going to give them with my money, I rebooked it. But this time, the names on the tickets were Rosa Viramontes and Marisol Garcia. First class, balcony suite. As I walked out the door, I thought about the woman I used to be, the woman who baked cupcakes while in pain, the woman who lay on a kitchen floor praying her son would pick up the phone. I felt a pang of sadness for her, but mostly I felt relief. I had to lose them to find myself. I had to close the bank to open my life. I walked to the elevator, my heels clicking on the floor. I wasn't running away from anything anymore. I was running toward something. I stopped paying for everything and stopped answering their calls until they learned respect. Did I go too far? Or was it time to teach them a lesson? Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks, so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story.